Thank you, Artis. I'm blushing all the time once you do the introductions. Happy to be here. Just once again, what Artis just mentioned to you, dear audience. Happy to see you here on the panel discussion, and we urge you and invite you to join our discussion as well. So if you have any questions, comments, you would like to express your opinion on the topics that were presented by our panelists before, or that will be mentioned during the panel discussion, do not hesitate to just raise your hand. My colleague, dear colleague Artis, will help us to orchestrate this. Meanwhile, the ones watching us online, please ask questions, share your opinion through Meetup platform. And once again, my colleagues will be happy to help me out with reading those. So happy to be here, guys. Let's warm up with a quick and philosophical question. So why among all of the industries that we talked today about bleaching jeans, of fashion, Formula One, anything else, cutting with lasers, doing some Star Wars stuff. Why healthcare for you? So why among all of the industries you chose one of the most conservative, for sure with with a high interest and added value, but nevertheless, maybe let's start with Bernhard. So why?
Of course, it's a philosophic question. I think you can directly help people. This is what motivates me, and yeah, I think it's important that all the technology that we develop, in some way, also directly helps people, not only just for fun.
Sure, definitely. We'll be touch basing on delivering added value to patients or to the broader population as such. We'll speak about any public health related devices, services. So Andres, what about you? Why applications healthcare?
Well, my mom is a doctor and my dad is a physicist, so I'm
medical physicist.
Pretty much there.
So that's how interesting. So
yeah,
it's,
my childhood was spent in hospital, so I like that much.
Okay, so doing physics and healthcare both during your daytime routine. Very interesting. So what about you, Blaž? So how you went into veterinary care, which is a part of healthcare, sure.
Probably I started as a small kid. I wondered a lot how medical devices work. So probably my doctors and dentists, they were not very keen on me because of all these why questions. And then when we had to select, about our schools or universities, I had a dog, huge dog with a lot of health issues. So even as a, let's say, teenager, I was already working a bit on how to help him. So then I just continued this path.
Okay, very impressive. So all of you have some, touch-based this from different perspective and different point of life. So I invite you to talk, to discuss. So if you have any questions to your colleagues and your peers, please also express it and ask questions as well. So I invite you to the discussion so we can, touch base from a variety of perspectives, so and variety of stakeholders, because bringing and making medical care more efficient is quite a broad term, isn't it? So let's try to, to touch base this from a perspective of healthcare professional, then switch down to the patient perspective or, person perspective if we speak about population health and those who are not yet and fortunately not diagnosed with any diseases, and touch base on the regulatory basis, and then, switching back to some of the questions from the audience, etc. So let's start from a healthcare professional perspective. So basically giving some, the device or the service and providing augmented help, augmented intelligence to the professionals. So what are, in your opinion, in your experience, basically the acceptance of technologies? So we do know that healthcare urges for new technologies, and but meanwhile it's quite conservative. So the conservative practices, regulatory. Apart from that, the slow cycles of research and bringing new products. So in your opinion and your experience, Bernhard, so how it is with the healthcare professionals in your region? So do you see that the professionals are urging, and hungry for new tech, or they're still a little bit, skeptic slash, positive some way?
I would say that you can group them. So I would say mainly the older one, the more traditional one. They, the white gods, they don't want too much technology because somehow they feel observed. But I think the younger ones, they are mainly quite interested because they are brought up with, with iPhones and all the technology stuff, and they somehow urging to have that in their work also. And they try new things, and I would say, yeah, they're urging for that.
Thank you. So beyond the, the generation threshold, or, the, not, I won't call it ageism, but, generation threshold, let me name it so. What are the factors, in your opinion, both from, healthcare perspective, in your experience, working as a researcher, you do envision that might be, a little bit changed or, fine-tuned? Maybe speaking of experience of your mother as an example, as a healthcare professional, Anders.
I have example of, well, actually two examples. Once we get into the intensive care department, the people, the staff here is very conservative because they only follow the guidelines, and it's natural because they don't have a lot of free movement there. They just need to follow the guidelines because actually that's the very close, very small gap between life and death or so, and they don't have a lot of space to improvise. On the other hand, once I get into the surgery room, you have this two types of specialists here. It's anesthesiologist,
anesthesiologist.
Yes, and the surgeon, and they are totally different persons. One of them is just getting his knives ready, right? And other type, they are either allowing or not allowing starting this procedure, and they are very. They accept our technology very well, and they like it. They like that it can be used instantly, even if in this very low scientific level. It is very far away from consumer product or so, but even in this low-level scientific level, he gets his set prepared, and he watched in our laptop. Oh, is he ready? Oh, can I start? So it's nice to see when a professional jumps into your position and he notices that this added value of this technology can be used for almost instantly.
Mm-hmm. So basically that's a combination of two, if I may call it, islands, tech-savvy islands, and also, medical professionals who have their own guideline, the routine, and the solution should be very robust,
yes,
integrated into the routine.
It is always a fight between conservative guidelines and something new and new tech.
Sure. We'll touch by the regulation topic, but let's still keep a little bit on, together with Blaj, about the mindset perspective. So you're a scientist, so and as a researcher, as a scientist, I might assume, also wearing the hat of researcher myself, you're into, exploring, you're into building stuff, you're into data, and the more data we gather, the better it is. So, that's the perspective, especially from engineering, people. But from another perspective, the solutions that we develop or design, even if it's, scientific research or applied research, it should be very robustly integrated. So how to find this balance, between being so keen to, put, I don't know, 1 million data points on the screen rather than, having very robust, two-click solution with just, triage, like 3 lights. So how to balance as a researcher there?
That's a very tricky question, actually, and I think there's not one answer which can
definitely
answer a question. Maybe I can just continue where Andris stopped. So also in veterinary medicine, we have, we have to search for a balance between some progress, so some advancement, and conservativeness. I don't work in human medicine, so I don't know exactly how it's there. But like Andres said, often doctors and also veterinary medicine, vets, they cannot improvise so much, especially when you have a, like a live patient there. So it's a lot about trust. And I think in our research group, after we got some traction, so that we had some studies, we had some successes, so we had some devices which are already translated in the clinic. veterinarians started trusting us more. And now the question you ask, these questions and challenges are now solved together with them. So we try to listen as much as possible, what they want, how they want it, and then we try to correspond, to make a corresponding decision or solution. But of course, often it happens that we say that's not possible, or they say it's not possible. So it's like, never-ending process.
Sure, that's what innovation is all about.
Yeah.
So Andres touched base a little bit briefly, the regulation or the guidelines. So the regulation for sure is one of the topics that often are being put also, European Commission level with all of the, Health Data Act or European Health Data Space programs that might find, a golden standard or a golden, middle point to actually help us to innovate, co-innovate together as a member countries. So maybe a quick sneak peek from Bernhard. So what do you see from your region, like from DACH region as such? What are the main obstacles there to operate, to innovate, to bring innovations to the healthcare system as such?
I think it's really data is what you need, and we have now this GDPR, and which should protect people, and we need to learn here in Europe that. Yeah, it's there to protect people, not to hinder us from developing new nice technologies, helping people. So this means we giving data, in daily life for free to some big corporates all over the world, mostly American ones, don't thinking about what we give away. And when you're then in the scientific field, it's so difficult to get real good data to work with. And I think we should do it somehow the same thing as we do it in the daily life, that there should be some kind of a bonus card or something where people actively could join that club and say, okay, I will provide my data, some special set of data, to help that. I think they would do it, but it's not implemented yet. It's done for every kind of shopping reductions, payback cards, but it's not in that field. I think we need a rethinking. This helps us. GDPR shouldn't hinder us. It should help us.
Okay, so it should be, once again, augmenting the process,
yeah.
not limiting the process. Brilliant. So, Andres, Lars, you work here in Latvia, both also in European funded projects in other countries. So what is your experience, with, for sure we don't have a data act yet developed in Latvia, as an example, for secondary health data use or, anything else. We're still developing this. We have GDPR compliance for sure, but still Secondary Health Data Act is in progress. But nevertheless, so from the perspective of applying to ethics committees, to going through the regulatory pathway and validation pathway, do you see that the system is ready for innovation like yours, or you do have some obstacles while riding this road?
Well, in my case, we are just in the beginning of developing this idea into a commercial product. And from the very first moment, we understand that if we want to sell somehow this, it's not enough to make a good product. We need to achieve so that this product would become not if the gold standard of the medicine in this field, then at least it should be widely acknowledged. So we need to reach not only the end users, but which would be the intensive care specialists, but we also need to knock to these people who make these guidelines, which is pretty much competitive, and it's not that easy for business. But it's not enough just to turn to some doctor and offer him our technology. He would say, it might sound good, it can even work well, but it's not enough just because your technology is not approved by global or at least European guidelines. So we need to go like wider and then come back to the end user. I don't know actually how to do it at this moment, but I cannot comment a lot on this topic. But obviously, it's not only about marketing or packaging this product. It's more about politics even. So.
Sure, the policy making is one of the vital points there, especially during certification validation process. But Blaž, you're representing veterinary health, so when the process differs a little bit, but still it's very sensitive topic. Once again, speaking about validation, speaking about the ethics and regulatory. So how do you feel when bringing your innovative ideas to the ethics committee or to anyone else who decides whether to put a green light on that or not? So
I would say that maybe veterinary medicine is not as regulated as human medicine, but when it comes to ethics, it's very regulated and it's a very sensitive topic. So there's, at least in Europe, one European directive which defines what's called animal experiment and what's not. So if some researcher has interest to do animal experiments, that's very hard to do because you need special approvals, you need special licenses. And in countries like Latvia or Slovenia, we have maybe like 2-3 institutions in the whole country which can do it. But our research team focuses on very non-contact or non-invasive stuff, and often we don't need long ethical approvals. We just work very closely with regulators, which go through everything what we want to do, and then they comment what should be changed or what it shouldn't be changed. And after we get ethical permission from them, these are usually governmental bodies or sometimes university bodies, then we can proceed with our work. But I can say that in our experience, because there's so little research and development, like I said during my speech in veterinary medicine, I think we have such a good experience with regulators because they're so keen that finally something is happening. So they really help us with everything, and they are very supportive. And also when we come to the clinic, of course everything is discussed with veterinarians because they're actually at the end responsible for pet. But of course also owner has to agree if we can proceed with something or not. And also from their part, I think most of them are very keen that they can participate and improve something, especially like I mentioned, temperature measurement, Owners are aware that this is not a very pleasant procedure, and if we explain, that we are testing new devices to replace unpleasantness, then usually they're very happy to cooperate. So from this part, of course, there are many limitations and a lot of legislation to know. But if you stick to this, and if you follow ethics, and if you have very open communication with regulators, we have very good experience so far.
Great. So it's basically about finding and locating and finding the champion in the hospital, with the veterinary or a hospital for us. Before we move forward with another topic, so any questions from the audience, please feel free to raise your hands. Are there any?
We will give you microphones, raised hands here. Please do raise your hands. Maybe a question from my side.
Perfect.
Throw it in. What could we talk about? Different topics in mind. Maybe we can tie it back again with the opening speech for the conference here. It was all about space race. and a call for all scientists and business people to tend their strength towards helping us achieve greatness in space. It was presented to us as an opportunity to also advance technology and things here on Earth, so as a catalyst for that. So where do you see the place for health tech in this so-called space race to Moon, to Mars? I don't know where we're going with that, but do you see this as something that will boost the industry, or is it not for health tech? Is it too conservative and let's deal with our problems here on Earth? What do you think? Bernard?
I would assume that it's somehow a test bed for some new technologies, because there are, of course, extreme situations in space, and there you can try something with, let's say, with little less efforts than to do it for all, you know, from the ethics point of view. So if there is no other solution, everything is better than having nothing. Yeah, it's maybe, yeah, somehow it can help from in a very early stage of trying new things. Yeah.
Thank you. So maybe we can switch to the patient perspective now.
Sure.
So, a lot of you told, you know, about data-driven decision making. Also, Bernhard mentioned about, you know, incentivizing or engaging. Let's talk about proactive engagement of individuals, whether patients or, you know, population in different research or healthcare activities. So a couple of questions in this topic I would like to address to the panelists. So how such solutions can empower patients from your perspective, Bernhard? So what exact use case you've seen that, you know, you bring, or your colleagues, your partners bring solution to the service? What changes you've seen from a, you know, patient-centric perspective, not only from a healthcare perspective?
Of course, all these digital solutions, all those apps, you know, telemedicine is something that evolves very fast and, of course, makes sense. And not every time, I think you also mentioned it, also for, of course, for the animals, going too often to the doctor if it's not needed. I think it's a good thing if you can avoid it, also from the CO2 perspective and everything from sustainability. So then the direct contact can be reduced to the things that are really needed, that are where the direct contact is necessary, and all this administrative stuff or just information exchange, of course, is a real benefit for the patients, I would say. Or especially in the pandemic situations. I don't know how it was here in Latvia, but in Austria it was somehow that, you know, everyone was locked, and you said, okay, they said that it's a very severe illness, and you stay at home, and a little bit you were alone because no one was helping you. And if you have those, let's say, new digital
bridges,
means, then of course that would help in that situation to stay in contact and help where you can help even without having a direct personal contact.
When we
Maybe
speak,
can I
yeah,
just
please.
drop in? Maybe that's a bit related to, you know, empowering patients, that you give them knowledge and tools. Of course, sometimes also veterinarians, we're a bit annoyed by you know, people knowing too much from Google. But still, on the other hand, you know, if patient has tools and knowledge, in our case, if owner has tools and knowledge, we can expect that he or she will take much better care of my patient. So maybe better food, better, you know, like that he or she would recognize when to go to doctor sooner, or how to handle special situation, or, you know, or employ treatment. Because in our business, it's often like this, that veterinarians, we start the treatment, but then the rest of treatment is done at home by owners. So for us, giving tools to owners and knowledge is not so bad, but actually it's very welcomed, I would say.
That's exactly the vector I wanted to talk about. Is, you know, when we talk about on healthcare conference, we mainly talk about disease-specific solutions. So, you know, targeting, you know, treatment product, which is very important. But what about, you know, the prevention? And, you know, for those who are not patients, who are not holding the status of patients for the general society or broader society. Andres, yes.
I just have my own thought about this. Like, if you have an imaginary tool of diagnostics, there is a fundamental difference between how the patient will use it. Probably he or she will become a little or less paranoid because he's focused on his illness. If you give this tool to a doctor or to a specialist, he will still stay more, how to say, objective or so. And so it is good, I mean, in telemedicine or whatever, to switch this point of examination from doctor's office or hospital to patient side, but each time we must take in follow that idea that there must be an expert behind this tool, and if we just give this tool to random patient, probably we cannot trust that measurement that much.
But don't you think there should be a correlation between, having healthcare professional and the patient and combining this data all together for a more complex picture? Yeah, Bernhard.
Yes, I would say this is exactly what this is our motivation, that we give the patient tools that are so easy from the usability point of view that he has just to put it on a body. It doesn't know what this device is doing, but it's just sending the information to some guys who know what to do, and this is how it should be. When I use a telephone, I don't know how it works as a normal guy, but I use it, and it should be with this telemedicine apps and devices. It should be the same thing. You just have it, and the information is exchanged with the professionalist, and and they help you when you need help.
But yeah, so basically we touch base the topic of user experience as well. So it should be robust. It should be also psychological wise, not overwhelming with exact, maybe, subjective results, but should be, going in synergy with a healthcare professional. This was Andres was relating to.
Not a self-diagnosis.
So not putting, the, I don't know, probable diagnosis to the patient himself, but engaging him in consultation with a physician.
Yes, you must also always keep in mind that the main role of the patient is to support and to give this feedback, because a doctor only make his decisions based on the feedback he receives from the patient. So these devices and these questions asked should be put in such way that the answer would be useful.
Let's try to tap with one leg in the topic of user experience, and maybe also persuasive solutions. So the ones that engage or accelerate the engagement rates or retention rates, because it's not only about healthcare. It's also in B2C apps or e-commerce. You should have the pathway and the flow very intuitive, very gamified, or very pleasant. So any thoughts on what should be the emphasis while developing solutions like this, or maybe in diagnostic therapeutics solutions? What should be the emphasis there? Like if we up to put some bullet points, so for patients to be proactively engaged there, to have interest in that. Any thoughts?
In science, you like more knobs, more switches, more is better. In healthcare, I think it's an opposite. The less is better. You need to have one red bulb, one green, and just one switch, and that's it.
That's actually interesting aspect. So, Blaj, any experience from veterinary health, health, like from animal health? Are there any ways how to engage pets?
I think
better?
we don't have the same challenges. At least our research team usually work with veterinarians, and we mostly develop solutions for them. So for us, they are the target, let's say, market in the way. So with issues just raised, we don't work as often. But of course, when you have applications, as I mentioned in my talk, that this telemedicine, I'm sure those guys have to work a lot on, how to engage patients or owners, what kind of characteristics to have. So, but unfortunately, we don't work too much with them. Like I said, just when it comes to clinical measurements, we of course work with owners, and we often try to involve them into our work, that they give us feedback, more information, and so far they're very happy to do it. But of course, we haven't developed any solution for them yet, so it's very hard to judge.
So I have received a mark from artists that we have a question in the audience. Yes?
Yeah, thank you. I had a question on veterinary medicine. It's very interesting what you said, but taking into account these numbers which people spend on their pets in US, and that they have a lot of insurance actually in US as well. I mean, some pets get their cancer treatments that our human patients may be wishing for. So I was just wondering, they have strong medtech companies. Aren't they really kind of moving into veterinary market as well? Or it's different from European situation? What you said that in Europe it's mostly, only Sweden maybe where they have insurance for pets. What is your comment?
You mean if insurance companies move towards?
I mean, if your insurance covers, then obviously you have a larger market, and then medical device companies should adjust their, let's say, human counterpart devices to veterinary market. Is it happening in the US, for instance?
It's very hard to judge because I'm not the expert in this field. I just know from Europe that Scandinavia has very high insurance rates. And when I compare ourselves with colleagues from Scandinavia, like Sweden, Denmark, they can do more. They have more methods in practice than we. And I'm not sure why Central Europe or South Europe or Eastern Europe lags behind Scandinavia so much, because even in Germany, which is, I think, economically very strong country, their insurance rates in pets are very low, I would say below 15%. So maybe that's more sociological question than maybe a question for me. But I know that when you have insurance on your pet, then it's not maybe full insurance like in humans, but they cover big portion of costs animal has at vet, let's say. I'm not sure if I answered your question suitably, but...
Thank you for the question. Any more questions from the audience before we move forward? Good. So let us get back also to this, participatory, proactive engagement. So from your experience, Bernhard, so have you seen also any solutions? So have you integrated, or your partners integrate any solutions devoted to population health, or rather it's more the focus is on the disease-specific domains? So what is whether there is a skin in the game in population health? Because we're used to go to the hospital once something happens. It's not working, unfortunately, due to our mindset, let us call it so.
Unfortunately, we are more focused on on the clinical when it's already too late. It's of course it would be better if you go more into the prevention. Yes, definitely.
And just giving a quick follow-up. So, what do you think? What should be, the factors for, people to change the mindset through technologies? Maybe, with the help of technologies.
I think if you enable them with easy to integrate new solutions, easy to integrate means into their already existing ecosystem. So, can be applied on their mobile phones, can be just easily connected to their mobile phones if there is an additional, let's say, device needed for that, so that there is such a small hurdle to do that. And of course, all these gamification factors and all this kind of stuff, if you include it, then you can engage them and motivate them to do something. I think it's everyone or many people nowadays are wearing this new watches with all the vital parameters, and as you can see, they are interested in their health, and they want to train and want to observe. And if you get that, what they do at home, let's say in a private thing, more so that we all can use those data and get better and have a better view about the global, let's say, health status, then yeah, this of course would help us a lot to know where the hotspots where we can avoid some new challenges coming to us. Yeah.
So multiple times the term robust experience appeared through our panel discussion, and I think it's quite interesting not only from a personalized perspective but macroscopic perspective. Yeah. So the thing like I'm doing with my watch is I'm sharing the data, cardiovascular data, with a company called Cardiogram from US, University of South California, and they're basically sharing with me, you know, once they publish something and how they adapt the algorithm for CVD risk calculation, and they have more than 300,000 people doing this 24/7, which we'll never achieve in any hospital, you know, as a real-world data, real-world evidence
commission
data.
And everything, it's impossible to do that. Yeah.
And that's quite interesting. But speaking once again about robustness, so and trying, you know, to make the soup out of the ingredients we discussed before we wrap the discussion up. So what would be Deep Tech Atelier, as well as the conference, also about, you know, speaking with talent, speaking with new ideas, and providing this formula of potential success, or raising the success factors and chances of success. So for you as experienced, you know, engineers, scientists, also, you know, industrial players, what should be the factors to be taken into account, in your opinion, if someone here in the audience is about to tap into developing solution in animal healthcare or, you know, healthcare as such? Let's do a, you know, round of feedback. So Bernhard, you're holding the mic, please, so you can put it back.
Sorry, I haven't got the question. So what?
What are the factors? Basically, if artists would like to ask us, you know, he would like to tap into healthcare right now, and what would you say him? What are the factors he should consider while developing solution?
Okay, you, of course, compared to other industries, healthcare is very conservative. That's it. But the good thing is you can directly see what you're doing, and if you see that after all that you can help a patient reduce, yeah, it's same for animal. If it's easier treatment, a higher success rate, then it makes you happy. So this is what drives you, and the other thing is, I think it's very important to raise the awareness of the people that all these technologies are not there if they are not engineers or scientists bringing up, you know, the base technology, the very deep stuff to enable all that kind of stuff. So that, yeah.
Thank you. Andres, what would be your, you know, thought for young engineers, you know, designing new solutions in healthcare? So what they should think about, or consider, or take into account?
From my experience, I see that sometimes more simple approaches are the better. And as we can see from diagnostics nowadays, we have very fancy, I mean, MRI scans, CT scans, whatsoever. And sometimes this final judgment or final diagnostics is still misleading, and sometimes some much more simple factors are ignored. So let's get back to basics, and let's just not ignore the visual or the symptoms that are actually very well can be diagnosed with simple methods.
So keep it simple then.
Actually, yes.
Good. So what about you, Blaž? So
I already mentioned some factors during my speech, so maybe I will just go to two extremes, one very positive factor, one very negative. I think very positive factor to start with, let's say, veterinarian tech is motivation and passion, because we are so closely connected with animals and pets. I think most of us, we feel what we do. So because we have dogs at home, we have cats at home, we have other pets and animals. So it's very good because we will have motivation, you will have passion, you will understand why someone is doing something, So even during dark times, you can, at least hug your dog and you will continue. So that's, I think, a very good factor when you're in our business. But on the other hand, in human medicine, it's very obvious, if you want to test something, if you want to develop something, you have infrastructure. But in veterinary medicine, there's almost no infrastructure. So a group like ours with such an interdisciplinary, let's say, topic, and so that we have veterinarians and engineers, microbiologists, biologists, that's almost non-existent, not just in Europe, but elsewhere as well. So that's, I would say, it's one of the biggest challenges. If someone has an idea, it will be very hard where to implement or where to test it, because you don't have simply groups or environment or infrastructure where you can do it. And for us, it took like 5 years just to make something, out of scratch. So to find all right people, all institutions, all clinics, which wanted to help. So maybe that's on the other side, that would be quite a big factor too.
Thank you so much. So in order to wrap it up, the formula from our speakers is raising awareness, focus on value and passion, and also keeping it simple, am I right? And not putting your hands down while validating or going this hard but very thankful and interesting path. Thank you so much, dear panelists. Thank you so much, dear audience.
Yes.
Artists.
Let's have a round of applause to Blaž, Andris, Bernhard, and our dear moderator, Emils, for all of your hard work. Thank you very much.